Before we get into today's episode, I wanted to quickly tell you about something that's genuinely helped me grow my business over the past year, and that's the Vivid Business Club. This time last year, I was feeling a bit stuck. I didn't have much of a plan, and I was definitely second guessing a lot of what I was doing. I joined the Vivid Business Club last summer, and honestly, it's one of the most supportive, practical, and encouraging communities I've ever been part of, and believe me, I have tried a few. If you're anything like I was, you might be overthinking every decision, struggling to show up consistently, or just feeling like you're doing it all alone. And that's exactly what the Vivid Business Club is designed to change. Inside, you'll find high energy support and simple strategic guidance to help you get clear on what grows your business, build confidence to show up in ways that actually work for you, create a plan you can stick to, and feel supported every step of the way. It's not just another membership, it's a space to actually get things done with people who totally get it. If you're curious, I'd love for you to take a look and see if it could be a good fit for you. You can find all the details via the link in the show notes. I don't recommend anything on this podcast I don't truly believe in, and this is something that really has made a difference. Now, let's get on with today's episode.
Welcome to the Bring Your Product Idea to Life podcast. This is the podcast for you if you're getting started selling products or if you'd like to create your own product to sell. I'm Vicky Weinberg, a product creation coach and Amazon expert. Every week, I share friendly, practical advice as well as inspirational stories from small businesses. Let's get started.
Hello and welcome to this episode of Bring Your Product Idea to Life. So in this episode, I want to talk about things you can do to improve your product listings over the summer period, because we all know that summer can be a slower time for sales. It can be a quieter time in our businesses, perhaps not for all of us, but for some of us, we might have kids at home and we might have less obligations to do other things, maybe networking or meetings and things we usually do are on hold over the summer months. And even if we're taking a little bit of time off, hopefully we all have a little bit more headspace at least, if not actual time. So for these reasons, summer can be a really great time to review your Amazon product listings and see if there's any changes you want to make ahead of Q4. Another reason to think about doing this now is obviously we're coming up, as I've mentioned, to Q4. It's going to be here before we know it. That's going to be the busiest time of year for sales on Amazon and everywhere else. And it'd be really great if you could go into September thinking, do you know what? My listings are as good as they could be. Everything is ready. I'm all set. Rather than rushing in September when kids are back to school, things start getting busy again, life feels like things start ramping up and you've got so many other things to do, it just might never make the priority. So today I'm going to suggest 5 really quick things that you can do to refresh your Amazon product listings. And by the way, if you don't sell on Amazon but you're somehow listening to this episode anyway, first of all, welcome. This will work anywhere where you're selling products. So what I'm talking about here is applicable to Amazon, but you could follow these same steps anywhere that you're selling your products if you want to give your listings a bit of a refresh as we head towards the end of quarter 3. So my first tip is to try updating your images. Why do I say this? Well, depending how long you've had your listing up, it might be that you've used the same images that you've had for years. Maybe you've had new photography taken since then, but you just haven't got around to updating your images because, your listing looks good as they are. But trying to update your images can be a really great way of refreshing your listing. Adds a little bit of interest. So especially if sales aren't perhaps where you'd like them to be, trialing a new main image might help with click-through rate. So it's definitely worth trying that out. Remember, if you are trying a new main image on Amazon, that the requirement for this is it has to be your product on a white background. But it might be that perhaps your main image now is your product from one angle, and you might want to try, actually, if I showed this product from a different angle, would that convert better? Would more people click through? It's definitely something to look at. It might be that your images aren't as high resolution as you'd like for whatever reason. Obviously on Amazon, you want your images to be as high resolution as possible to allow for zoom. If for some reason you think, actually, I've got crisper images now, I've got high resolution images, why not swap those out? That could be a really good idea. If you've only ever used shots of your product, this could be a really good time to maybe add some lifestyle shots. So maybe you've had an opportunity to have some lifestyle shots taken of your product since you set up your listing. Maybe you've got some user-generated content. Maybe customers have sent you images of your products sort of in their real lives, and maybe they would be happy for you to use those images. Obviously, you have to ask permission for this kind of thing. Or maybe you've got some time over the summer to go and take some lifestyle images yourself, which is entirely possible. That can be a great way of updating your listing. It also might be a good time to think about some infographics. So maybe you want to highlight key features, maybe you want to zoom in on certain parts of your products to show things off, maybe you want some text-based images where you're highlighting particular benefits. Maybe you want to have an image with some award wins on there. Maybe you've won something recently, you'd really like to highlight that. Just have a think about, are your images as good as they can be? Are they showing off your product to its highest potential? And can a customer who flicks through your images, let's say they don't go to the text, they're shopping on mobile, lots of us when we shop on mobile, myself included, will flick through the images as the first thing before even going to the text, because to get to the bullet points you have to scroll down. And as we know, lots of people shop on mobile. So imagine someone comes to your product listing. If they were just to click on your listing and then flick through the images, would that give them all the information they need in order to decide to buy your product? If not, think about what images are missing and what you can add in to improve that. And I promise that will make a real difference. So my second tip for things you can do to refresh your listings this summer is to rerun your keyword research. So things change. When you set up your listing, it might have been amazingly well optimized for search. In fact, I hope it is really, really optimized for search, because obviously on Amazon, that's how you get found. But things change, and the terminology people use, the things people are searching for, the wording, the phrasing can and does change. So it's always worth rerunning your keyword research, maybe a couple of times a year, just to see if there's any words or phrases that customers are searching for that are relevant to your product that aren't included in your listing. So there are lots of keyword research tools you can use for this. I like Jungle Scout. There's also Helium 10. There's plenty of other tools out there. I'm not going to list them all. You choose the one that's appropriate for you. You can also use the Amazon search bar for some basic unpaid, free keyword research. Of course, that's not going to give you the depth, but something you can use, which is very exciting, and I'm actually going to cover more in next week's episode, so please do listen to that, is brand analytics. Brand analytics is brand new on Amazon. You may be familiar with it, you may have had a look, you might not even know that you have it, you might not even know what it is. Next week's episode, I'm going to go into this in lots of detail, but I promise brand analytics is going to be a really useful way of finding out what words and phrases customers are typing in the search bar to find products like yours. So however you do it, it's definitely worth just taking a look at your analytics and what people are searching for. Another way you can do this is you can review your ads. So you can look at, if you're running any ads on Amazon, you can take a look at your search terms and you can see, are there any keywords that are converting via ads but aren't actually included in your listing? So any words, phrases that customers are searching for, they're finding your product, they're clicking on your ad, they're then going on to buy, which is important. Is there anything that meets that criteria that isn't actually included in your listing text? If there is, you should be adding those into the text of your listing, because then you can start to rank for those organically. Because at the moment you are ranking for those search terms via your ads, but wouldn't it be nice if you could start getting some more organic traffic as well? And the only way that's going to happen is if those words and phrases are included in your listing text. I'm not talking about a complete rewrite here, by the way. It might mean you just updating your title or one of your bullet points. That's, that really is the extent of it. Nothing I'm suggesting here should take you too long, I hope. Maybe the 5 things that I'm going to go through, maybe some of them will apply to every listing. Maybe for some of your listings, you'll only need to do 1 or 2 of these things. Obviously, that's for you to know. But I think it's just really useful to think about all of these 5 things when you're reviewing your listings and think, okay, which of them are relevant and how can I refresh and improve my product listing? And the final thing you can do when it comes to keywords is take a look at your competitors. Obviously, I don't agree with copying, but if you look at every single one of your competitors has a word or a couple of words or a phrase in their product title particularly, and you don't, there's probably a reason for that. And the reason is they've probably done the keyword research recently and they know that people are searching for that. So that also might be helpful. My third tip of things you can do to refresh your listing are to review your bullet points and your product description. So not just based on keywords, as I said earlier, but just having a quick read through, maybe get someone else to give them a quick read through and just make sure they're benefit focused, they're concise, they're easy to scan. Is there anything missing? Leading me on to my 4th tip, which would be to check your customer reviews for clues, because your customers will tell you if there's something missing from your product listing in the form of a review, and possibly not a good review. If a customer thinks your listing is misleading in any way, or they're confused about something, or there was a key piece of information they didn't get, your reviews will tell you that. And while this is not nice, like nobody wants anything less than a 5-star review. What's really useful is you can use the information in those reviews to improve upon your product listing. So it might be that you haven't included the size of your product and people are leaving reviews saying, gosh, this is much smaller than I expected. Well, then perhaps you can add size detail into the text, and even better, you could add an image that kind of shows your product in relation to something else to make it really clear what the size is. So that's just one example, but hopefully by having a quick look at your reviews, which I think is worth you doing fairly regularly anyway, not all the time, you don't want to be constantly reading up on reviews, that's probably not good for anyone, but just a few every couple of months, just reading your reviews, particularly the most recent ones, seeing what people are saying, even seeing what people like. Are there things that customers really like about your product that you haven't highlighted enough? So let's not just focus on the negative. Are there things that your customers are telling you they love about your product, or ways customers are telling you they're using your product that you haven't included in your listing? If so, I think this is a great opportunity to just do a little refresh. As I say, not a rewrite, just a refresh to add these things in and help to make your listing more relevant. And then my final tip for how you can refresh your listings this summer is to add or update your A+ content. So if you don't know what A+ content is, that's the sort of image heavy content you get towards the bottom of an Amazon product listing. And to have this kind of content, you have to apply for Amazon's brand registry. To apply for Amazon's brand registry, you need to have a registered or pending trademark in the UK if that's where you're looking to sell, or the US if that's where you're based, but basically in the country that you're looking to sell your products on Amazon. And if you're eligible then for brand registry, then A+ content is something you get completely free. And I think it's really worth having on your listings if you can. One, because it's free, and two, because it can really help improve conversions. And it's more space. It's more space for you to tell people about your product. It's more space to add images or graphics or whatever you want. It's basically just more real estate on your listing. I mean, why wouldn't you use it? It's completely free. So Amazon does have templates for A+. And when I first started working on Amazon, so this was probably, I want to say it was about 10 years ago, maybe not that long, 8 years ago, and A+ content first existed, I was using those templates. So you've probably seen them. You can add banners of different sizes, images with text overlay. There's one where you can have like 3 boxes with a block of text under each of them. They're okay. They do look a bit basic. And I'm starting to feel that nowadays they're looking a little bit old-fashioned. More and more people now are moving away from using the Amazon templates and creating their own content. And the easiest way to do that is you select one of the larger image formats for each of your blocks of content, create your own images. I like to do it in Canva and then just stack them. So the way I would do it, if this is helpful, is I would use I think it's the largest image that you can possibly have as a block, because the way A+ works, it's basically blocks that you stack. So you have something at the top, so you might have a banner, and then you'd have to have something below that. You can just stack 5 blocks of images, and that's a really great way, as I say, because you can use your own colours, your own fonts, you can make it really cohesive, you can create it in Canvas, you can see how it will look when it's laid out. And that, in my opinion, that looks much nicer and more modern than the old Amazon templates, where you're kind of having to fit your content to their templates. It's not probably what you want. The text is quite small. It doesn't look great on mobile. Whereas if you're creating your own A+, you can add different images for mobile versus desktop. So you can make sure that everything's really legible, looks really good in both formats, remembering that a lot of people are shopping on their phones nowadays. I think it's a really good thing to do. So if you don't have any A+ content, this could be a good time to add it. If you have A+ content, but you're using the old Amazon sort of what do we call them, pre-made formats, whatever we want to say, it might be a good opportunity to refresh it with your own branding. If you don't have a brand story on your A+ content, that could be something you might want to add. And finally, my favourite, if you're not using comparison tables, that's definitely something to add this summer. So a comparison table is a table you've probably seen at the bottom of other listings, where you can basically highlight other products in your range. So if you have products that complement the product that you're selling, or maybe you sell that product in different sizes, or even if your products aren't, aren't really related to each other than they all come under your brand. So let's say you're a hair care brand and you've got a shampoo and you've got a conditioner and you've got a serum and an oil. You might want to use all of these in the comparison table just to make it easy for customers to buy from you. Because it might be that the product they're looking at isn't the one they want to buy. And then they say, oh, actually, this brand is selling a different product and that is what I want. So comparison tables are great for that. So that's the final thing you can add to your A+ content if you don't have one already. And my top tip on this, by the way, is that if you have a variation listing, so let's say your product listing is for gloves and you're saying gloves in 5 different colours, please don't put all of those 5 colours in your comparison table, because customers can choose the colour of the glove from the top of the listing. Instead of that, put a link to your hats in the comparison table, or your scarves, or your other, what I'm saying, I don't know what you sell, but your other products, not the ones that are already available on that listing. Because what we want from these tables is to make it really easy for a customer to buy something else from you. So they might buy the product they're looking at, but wouldn't it be great if they buy something else as well? Or if they don't buy something else as well, wouldn't it be great if they bought something else, but it happened to be one of your products, because you've made it super easy for them to buy from you? So hopefully this is all really helpful. I've tried to keep this brief because I know I've covered a lot. It's not intended to be onerous. If you can, I would say my challenge to you is to try and do a mini review of one of your product listings this week. As I say, it might not be that you need to do everything that I've outlined, and I'm sure it won't. I'm sure your listings are fantastic, and it might be that you just need to make 1 or 2 tweaks, to improve them. But I think it's a great time to do it. Hopefully you've got some time and some space where you can look at your listings, and I promise any changes that you make will really make a difference when we go towards the end of this year. If you need any further help with this, I have a free audit checklist. This is an Amazon audit checklist. It's completely free, and it takes you through not just product listings, but all those little niggly Amazon tasks, all the things that you could look at over the summer to just check that your listing, your account as a whole, not just your listings, but your Amazon account is as well optimized for success as possible. If you'd like that, there's a link in the show notes. And if you are really not sure where to start, if you're listening to this and you're thinking, I'm sure my listings need to work, but I'm really not sure what to do, why not book a power hour with me? I can review your listings for you and give you some really tailored, specific feedback. If that's something you're interested in, again, there will be a link to that in the show notes. So thank you so much for tuning in for this episode. I'll be back next week where I'm going to talk about the Amazon updates that you can't afford to miss this year. So things that have happened, things that are going to happen, all the things you need to know about, including an in-depth update on Amazon's brand analytics, as I mentioned earlier. And I will be back with another podcast interview this Friday. So until then, have a lovely week, and I shall speak to you very soon.
Thank you so much for listening right to the end of this episode. Do remember that you can get the full back catalogue and lots of free resources on my website, vickyweinberg.com. Please do remember to rate and review this episode if you've enjoyed it, and also share it with a friend who you think might find it useful. Thank you again, and see you next week. Hi, this is just a little note to say if you've enjoyed this episode, or indeed any of the episodes, and you would like to, buy me a coffee or something, you can actually now leave tips. So there's a link to how to do this in the show note. Of course, do not feel obliged to do this. This is a free podcast. This will always be a free podcast. But as I say, if you want to buy me a coffee, you can do that via the link in the show notes.